Hello and welcome back to Core Finance in association with the Next Exchange. I'm joined by George Mcdonaugh, who is CEO of Kryptonite1 and involved in a very, very exciting and developing industry. So I think on that note, I'll let you take over, George, and explain who you are, what you do at Kryptonite1.
Thank you very much for having me. So Kryptonite1 was probably one of the earliest institutions to get into what's called the token economy. ICOs, people know that term. And our plan was to give investors the opportunity to gain access to the crypto economy via a publicly listed share. So we created Kryptonite1. We got a team together that had a lot of experience and a lot of nous in terms of looking at projects, and so we started. We did some raising, we got some finance, and we started getting to work looking at the ICO world, or the token economy, and picking projects. And the idea would be that our share would track the value of the assets that we were buying.
And so, I mean, for a lot of investors who want to get involved in the cryptocurrency space, the ICO, the token economy, and blockchain, you're now providing a listed company that is a conduit and will basically gain access to investors to this whole environment.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So effectively, our main job is to look at our network, talk to them about the projects that are coming up in the space, do our own due diligence on the white papers and the team and the people. It's very similar to any sort of seed funding enterprise, and we have a great group of technical advisors as well. And so with this kind of infrastructure, we can begin to find the gems and allocate capital to allow those projects to sometimes even just get to the public offering. So we're very, very early stage. We have a range of investments, and clearly some we come in at the public offering. Sometimes you have to come in at the public offering because there's no opportunity to come in before. But certainly our aim is to get in there right at the beginning, help them structure their token offering. And then communicate them and their project to our network and to the investment community.
So from a timescale, you're getting involved in some pre-token offerings of the ICOs, but also some post. What is your criteria? Because I mean, in this expanding space, there's probably quite a lot of noise. How do you break down? How do you look at an offering and say, actually, this is a company that we see a future in and want to invest in?
Well, it's changed over time. At the moment, right at the start, you didn't necessarily have to look at the regulatory impact to some degree because it was so new. And what you would do is you'd look at the vertical that they're trying to build in. So you'd say, are they in the insurance area? Are they in the gaming space? Because there are areas of blockchain there are areas of the economy where the blockchain is going to be most useful and most interesting, and those obviously get crowded to some degree. So we'd say, how many other projects are there in this space? Then the next thing would obviously be the team. One gets the sense that there's going to be quite a lot of pivoting going on, and if you back a great team with a great CEO, they'll have the ability to shift and move. Because very often, as it's moving so quickly, you'll find that your project's redundant by the time you're bringing it to market, because someone else has found a better way to use the technology, perhaps. So the team is obviously very important. We talk to teams non-stop, both in terms of doing our due diligence, but also going all the way through. Once we are involved, we talk to them all the time, and that's great. Because you build up relationships, and they have networks, and you can grow through their networks. So what are they trying to do? Who are the team? What kind of background have they got? And then it's all down to what we call the token mechanics. So what is the token? What role does it have to play in the system? If you if you took the token out of the system, could it still work? And if that's the case, it's probably not something we'd look at. The token needs to be absolutely central to the functioning of the project, which is the basis of all of this, really. And currently, we're seeing tokens as a great way of creating finance, but there has to be more than that. And so that would also be a huge part of what we look at. And then lastly would be, what have they built already? Like, is there an MVP? Is there any code? We have great technical advisors that we can pass that to for further analysis. And at that point, we'd make a decision and sort of bring all those areas into play and go from there.
Great stuff. And with regards to Kryptonite1 as well, you have skin in the game that you're getting involved. You're getting tokens from these companies.
Sure.
So you're adding some value there to the company by being involved in that, but also as an advisory role, I believe you can work with these companies to nurture them and grow them as an old school incubator.
Sure. I mean, it's project specific. So there are some projects that are naturally looking to move into the investor market to some degree, or the mainstream world, for example. And clearly, with our team, we have a leg in both camps. So we have strong crypto people who understand crypto, but at the same time, we have people who understand public markets. And so there are certain projects. One in particular springs to mind called Melonport that is also looking to span that juncture. And they're a fantastic team and a great project. And so our role with them, it's very it's not sort of set in stone, as it were. It's more sort of a conversation that we're having. But projects like that are looking to talk to the more mainstream world, we would certainly help them with that. There are some that are sort of very deep tech, sort of what we call the stack, sort of low down in the stack. Very blockchain focused and orientated, that are sort of plugging gaps within the actual blockchain system and has no particular interest in sort of being a token that is out in the mainstream. It's far more internal. They're fantastic projects to be a part of because you join yourself up to the growth of the space. And there's some thinking that you're tokenizing layers in this new infrastructure, and if you have tokens in those foundational layers, as it grows and as applications grow on top of that stack, those tokens become very valuable because they're sort of core infrastructure. And so we look at all areas of the space, but certainly we do advisory, and we also sort of syndicate raising to some degree. So there'll be projects that have a much wider scope, need to raise quite significant funds. Kryptonite1 wouldn't want to take all of that, so we would syndicate it out to our network and say, would you guys take a portion of this, and these guys, and very often a lot of these projects are network based. They have to build a network. They have the token is designed to bring people on board. And when you do that, it's not necessarily great to have one VC come in and take the entire token allocation or even equity stake, depending on what the structure is. You want to sort of grow networks around the world. So for some projects, what they want is crypto funds who know what they're doing in the space, but they'd like 5 of them, one in Japan, Hong Kong, UK, Europe. They want to get that spread. So as to ignite network participation in different areas of the world. So that would be another thing that we try and bring to the table if projects need that.
So this is the value you're adding to projects,
Sure.
But also let's discuss the value that you're adding to shareholders.
Right.
Obviously, you're doing the homework. You've got the expertise. Do you have the track record as well?
Yeah. So we were very early in the token economy. There were earlier ones, but that was more sort of an equity-based thing. Tokens were an emergent property of the blockchain space that came many years after the initial Bitcoin. So in terms of the token world, we were pretty much first to market. And then from there, our track record is essential in being able to show clearly that you've picked good projects from the get-go. And it's as much picking good projects as missing ones that have come unstuck to some degree. And so far we've been successful at that. It's also in terms of the shareholders, the key here is to get great terms when you're coming in very early, because clearly you're taking a higher risk, and you're depending on your own due diligence to make that decision. But if you come in earlier, you can get very good allocations in these projects, and therefore you're getting value for the shareholder by getting in earlier and making those decisions. So to that end, I think we've shown that we can do that successfully.
And finally, it's a fast-moving, exciting area to be in, and I'm sure over the next 12 months, even in the coming months, we're going to see a lot of change and developments. How are you positioned at Kryptonite1 to deal with these changes, and where do you see yourself in a year or maybe a couple of years down the line?
Well, yeah, it's very hard to see where this space goes in that kind of time. But certainly, there's been a huge influx of interest into the ICO space. It's a whole new sort of way of funding, and not only that, it's a way of funding in an area that's growing so quickly anyway. So people are sort of trying to catch up to what's going on, and so clearly, I think there's been this large influx of interest and money, and at some point, some of this stuff has to begin to work. Projects have to start delivering. And I think we're going to get a much better sense of whether these decentralized applications are actually that easy to build. Are these networks that easy to actually bootstrap together and get it working? So I think there's been a lot of benefit of the doubt at the moment, and I think realization is going to begin to crop in or crop up rather, and we'll see how it pans out. But currently, we feel that by going in earlier to projects, not necessarily taking sort of tokens immediately. What you can do is you can get sort of equity stakes to some degree, and then they can transfer into tokens depending on the agreement. And by planning these token events far further into the future, and doing a lot more rigorous diligence in terms of who the regulatory team are that you've got on board, effectively the law firm, and how to structure it, where to structure it, what jurisdiction. Taking a lot more time over that will stand us in good stead in terms of where the ecosystem moves from here on in. Because obviously, with this sum of money coming in, you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly, as best as you can. So we're going to see some hopefully some great projects come to market soon, get the cogs turning, and that'll be really exciting to see.
Well, hopefully you'll come back and give us an update over the coming months. But in the meantime, as ever, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and that is George Mcdonaugh, CEO of Kryptonite1. Thank you for joining us here in Core Finance in association with Next Exchange.
Thank you very much for having me.